In the last few weeks, a few of my fellow security YouTubers have put up a question posing this one thought. Should a security guard intervene in a fight between two individuals, even if they're on or potentially close to property? I think that one of the things that is being missed in this conversation is probably the most important aspect of this issue, and that's the three elements that most people are not talking about. That's the legality of you being involved, the policy around you being involved, and the morality around you being involved. Stay tuned for my views on this in today's debrief. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard. I want to thank you for joining me for today's debrief, coming to you from beautiful yet sometimes extremely insane Portland, Oregon. As always, if you're getting any benefits from the videos that we are uploading, please like, share, subscribe. If you feel compelled, you can donate. The donation link will be down below. And as always, if you're going to subscribe to this, just hit the button that looks like this one. So today we're talking about security guards getting involved with breaking up fights on or near property. I told you guys that there's three aspects of this conversation that I'm not hearing discussed that I think that we need to go over today to keep you guys out of trouble, out of jail, and potentially out of financial hardship. So let's get into aspect number one. Aspect number one is going to be the legality. Guys, listen, if you are a security guard, you fall into the same category as any normal citizen. You can make a citizen's arrest for any felonious activity that's created in front of you that you observe, but that's no different than just your average everyday citizen. We are not, despite what we are being asked to do, law enforcement. Now, for law enforcement officers, and I'm speaking about this from my best knowledge and my best experience, I am not a legal expert, and you'll want to make sure that whatever information that I'm giving you, you're taking strictly as that. This is my personal opinion from what I know from my own experience. But if you're looking for legal advice, you need to make sure that you run that by a qualified attorney. But best of my knowledge, law enforcement officers fall under what is called the mandate or the duty to act. If you are a sworn police officer and you see any sort of activity, criminal or otherwise, that is being created in front of you, you have an obligation to intercede. Security guards, however, fall under what is known as no duty to act. Now, there are a lot of different rules, a lot of different laws based on the state and the area that you're in, but we're talking about a generalization here. So for security guards, we are under no obligation or no duty to intercede in something that we see. A very tragic example of no duty to act is actually the Parkland school shooting. There was a off-duty sheriff that was working in the capacity of a school resource officer, or basically a security guard. And when the Parkland school shooting happened, this security guard, he actually left the school, went outside and found cover and concealment in a nearby apartment building. He was later terminated for this, and all of his benefits, including his pension and other retirement benefits, were stripped from him. He took this all the way to, I believe, the Supreme Court of Florida, if I'm not mistaken, and actually was reinstated into his position and was given all of his benefits. It was shown that as the capacity that he was working in as a security guard, he was under no obligation and no duty to put himself in harm's way to either stop or prevent what happened. And that's a very grim example, and I apologize for even bringing that up if that triggers anyone. But that's a great way of understanding the difference between being an on-duty police officer, an off-duty police officer, or working in a security guard capacity. The second aspect of the legal issue of being involved is, what exactly are you getting involved in? Were you there when this fight started? Did you hear what happened? Did you see the issues that led to it? Are you potentially attacking the victim? All of this is a very gray area, which leads to the second issue, which is your policy. Each of us works for specific companies, each of us work for specific clients, and all of us have post orders that line out what we're supposed to do in this situation. Let's discuss policy, issue number 2. Now, specifically in relation to post orders and legality and how that involves a breaking up of a fight, this reminded me of a very specific situation that I dealt with about 3 months ago. So I'm going to pull out my training knife. And again, this is a plastic knife. This is not a real knife. This is a training knife. And this is going to simulate a situation that I dealt with. Now, specifically, the post orders for one of the locations that I work out states that the security guards are specifically not to get involved in any sort of issue in terms of physically putting your hands on someone or interceding in something unless there is imminent threat to a customer of the store, an employee of the store, or our person, right? So let me say that again, that we are not to physically get involved in a situation. We're not to try and intercede in a situation unless there is imminent threat or danger to a customer of the store, an employee of the store, or our personal self. And this is where the knife comes in. So specifically in this situation, we had a male customer and a female customer. They were a couple, I'm assuming, and they come into the checkout stand. Now I'm standing about 15 feet away and I'm watching these two people just, check out their groceries. From the outside door, a second man comes in and he seems to know the female. And he starts talking to her. Hey, Samantha, how you doing? It's good to see you again, blah, blah, blah. Now, the guy that she's with on this side, right? He's seeing this guy come in and he goes, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. No. You talk to me. You talk to me. You don't talk to her. You talk to me. The guy that just came in, you're fine, go ahead.
Okay.
This is a fake knife, by the way.
I am not worried.
Scare you and make you think
No
I'm gonna hurt
concerns.
you. Okay, yeah. So the guy that had just come in is over here and he's like, no, it's all good, it's cool. I just want to say goodbye to her, I'm leaving. I just want to say goodbye to her. Now, the female, she's literally checking out her groceries and she's completely ignoring guy number 1. She's completely ignoring guy number 2, right? So guy number 1, looking at the guy that just came in, he's like, no, fuck that. You don't talk to her, you get out, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm over here watching all this and I'm starting to get concerned. So I say, hey guys, hey.
Bring it down.
Right? Now, guy number 2 that just came in, he's like, you know what? No problem. He walks outside, okay? So now inside the store, inside the actual facility is only the female and guy number 1, right? 2 minutes later, guy number 2 comes right back through the door. Hey, you know what, Samantha, blah, 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 blah. And again, guy number 1, hey, what did I tell you? Fucking leave her alone, get out of her face. And me, watching from the side, hey guys, bring it down, right? Guy number 1 says, no problem. Whispers something in the girl's ear, smacks her on the ass, exits the door. Now, guy number 1, seeing all this happen, literally starts boiling. I mean, he's like walking around with his fist raised. He's got his hands like this, and you can just see that he's absolutely livid, right? And again, the girl, she's not doing anything. She hasn't said anything to guy number 1. She hasn't said anything to guy number 2. She continues scanning out her groceries. Guy number 1 beelines it out the door, right? Going after guy number 2. So I follow guy number 1 and head outside. Now I stop right by the door because both of these guys are now what is considered off property. So I'm gonna step out here and I'm just gonna have you guys look at the alleyway here, okay? So the alleyway going all the way to these chairs. Let's just say that everything that is on this side, from here all the way to this rail, that is our property line. So anything that happens from this rail over to this wall, I am contractually responsible for. This is our property, right? This is our building. All of this alleyway represents our sidewalk. But here in Portland, there is one aspect of the sidewalk that is represented by this railing that is the public access way, that is public property. And we have so many issues at this retail establishment where the second someone has left property and they literally just step over this little imaginary line, they're now on public property. You're fine, you're fine. I do these videos all the time and I have lots of random people jump in. You're fine. How you doing today? Good. Okay, so that's a great representation. She just walked through public property, right? So let's get back to the story. So now guy number one, guy number two are on public property, although they're only separated by that much space. That's our property line and public property line. That's how much separates it, just that little bit, right? Guy number one pulls out a knife. Guy number two is currently, when I step out, standing right here. He is still on private property, our property, right? He just left a check stand that the woman that he's with is still at. He is currently, at that moment, a customer. The person that is holding the knife is now on public property. How do I intervene? Do I intervene? As the conflict starts to grow and they start to get more and more angry at each other, the person number one, guy number one that was now on private property, steps onto public property. The guy holding the knife now moves onto private property. So now we have this circular dance happening where the two guys are going back and forth and arguing each other. Fuck you, no fuck you, no fuck you, no fuck you. And they're circling on property, off property, on property, off property, on property, off property, back and forth. And this situation is fluid. Now, keep in mind that guy number two, in his hand, is already brandishing a knife. Him brandishing that knife, if I was a law enforcement officer, would stand as imminent danger. Simply taking a knife out and having a verbal confrontation, from my knowledge, stands as an imminent threat. If I'm a law enforcement officer, I can draw my firearm, and depending on what this person does from that point, I can fire, I can arrest, I can detain, I can do a myriad of things. But as a security guard, he has not done anything at this point to show imminent threat. From my position as a security guard with no duty to act, I have no ability to do anything simply because this person is holding a knife. In Oregon, there is a open carry knife law. If you have your knife of any length and it's exposed and it's seen, it's visible, that is not illegal. We also do not have a brandishing law. Some states, simply by taking out a knife, you're brandishing it. If you're arguing with somebody, you're pointing, that is brandishing. And here in Oregon, we don't have a brandishing law. So even though these two people are arguing and this person is holding a knife, he has done nothing to show imminent danger to someone who is currently either, depending on the moment, on property or off property, who is currently either, depending on the moment, my responsibility or not my responsibility, right? So there's one moment in this situation where guy number two, the person with the knife, literally lifts up the knife and starts to posture as if he's gonna do something to the guy, right? Now at this point, is he an imminent threat? And in my assessment, yes, he is. He is an imminent threat to do bodily harm to someone who at that moment is now still a customer of the establishment that I'm working for, right? But the person that's got the knife in his hand, who is now the imminent threat when he's doing this motion, is off of property. Do I have the right, by my post orders, to act in that situation? Do you see where this gray area is? I'm not going to tell you guys what you should or what you shouldn't do. What I want to explain to you is the fluidity of this situation. And you have to always remember that everything that we do, it falls under the scrutiny of the camera. So depending on the action that I take at that moment, depending on where guy number 1 is standing versus where guy number 2 is standing, depending on what guy number 2 is doing when I take whatever action, right, here or here or here or here, all of that leads into the legality of what we are being tasked to do at that facility or that location. And it also bleeds into the policy of what we're doing in that location. And guys, I'm telling you, this was a very stressful and difficult situation for me to handle, okay? No one was hurt, no one was detained, no one was pepper sprayed, maced, tased, or shot, and the situation was de-escalated. But I won't go into what happened from my standpoint just for my own legal protection, but I want you guys to think about that. I want you to think about the fluidity of that. Now, we have one more aspect that we haven't talked about that we have to in 2021, and that's going to be the third aspect, which is the morality of the situation. So leading into 2021, there was a big change in how things are being done, right? You could say that now more than ever, the public scrutiny that comes from everything being videotaped, everything being shared, all of us being more connected via social media, that's a great thing. If you look at the past equality and equity movement of 2020 leading into 2021, post the George Floyd situation, the Black Lives Matter protests, everything, all of that stems from this little camera that I'm talking to you right now. And that has changed the aspect of things that we do based on legality, things that we do based on policy, because now more than ever, the morality of what you're doing and how you're doing it comes into play. Now, we talked about how law enforcement officers fall under the mandate of the duty to act, and that security guards generally fall under the mandate of no duty to act, right? But we saw in early 2021 this movement of anti-Asian hate. If you remember, there was lots of videos of Asian people in areas like Los Angeles and areas like New York City and New Jersey where elderly Asian people and just general Asian people in general were being assaulted, all of this stuff being caught on camera. And there was one specific situation that I believe happened in an area of New York City where it happened directly in front of a hotel building. And this hotel building happened to have 2 security guards on duty at the time. Now, all of this happened right outside the door. It's almost damn near identical to the situation that I just explained to you. You have 2 security guards, and I don't know what their post orders were, if they were to remain inside and not deal with anything outside, if their outside area was like the facility that I was talking about, where that outside area, literally, you have your private property line that butts right up against to the public property line, and if that situation was happening somewhere where they had no jurisdiction. Now, I looked up the ordinance or the law in New York City that security guards fall under, and they are also under no duty and no obligation to act. However, the surveillance video from the inside of that hotel, it shows 2 security guards watching this elderly Asian woman being body slammed to the ground, being punched by a larger man, and the security guard simply goes over, closes the door, and calls the cops. Now, by policy and legally, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. But when this story went viral and everyone in the news organizations got a hold of it, these security guards were absolutely hung out to dry. You had the mayor of New York and you had the governor of New York, who all made statements about the cowardice of these 2 security guards, how horrible it was that they didn't get involved, how horrible it was that from a moral standpoint, they felt no obligation to help this woman, and those security guards were terminated. Now, since this happened, I don't know if they've been reinstated. I don't know if like the Parkland sheriff's deputy, that they got their jobs back or if they were given any back pay, but that's something very important for us to be aware of, that not only do we have to live by the legal standard that our jobs fall under, or the policy standard that we're hired under, but we have to also be aware of the morality of which any situation that we're involved in, how that can show us in a positive light, a negative light, and have a very real effect on whether or not we stay employed. Now, again, this is something and a subject that you guys are going to have to make the decision. My short answer on whether you should ever get involved in a situation like this to break up a fight or intercede in something is simply no. I think that it puts you in too close proximity to a situation that can go bad in so many different ways, and we just don't have the backing or the support or any sort of systems to be there for us if we're in the wrong. So my short answer is no. But again, guys, listen, I'm bringing this information to you. I'm talking to you based on my experience and what I've dealt with in my own personal life. But this is something that you guys are going to each individually have to think about and make a decision that's best for you, best for your family, and best for your future. This is called critical thinking. And critical thinking is something that is going to make us all better officers in the end. And if we're all better officers, we all make more money and we have more success collectively in changing the narrative around security. As always, I thank you guys so much for being a part of today's debrief. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. And if you have, please share it with other people. Let's help build this community and continue to do what we're doing, okay? Always watch your six and be great.